Okay, so before we do long division, how do you do long division with just numbers?
Divide.
Good answer.
What do you do?
Okay,
Okay, so how many times does 4 go into 9?
2.
Then what do you do after you get a number up there?
Multiply.
You multiply them. Then what do you do?
Subtract.
Subtract.
Bring down.
And then you bring down. Then what do you do after that?
Do the same
You
thing.
do the same thing again, right? How do you know when to stop?
When there's no more numbers.
Okay, when there's no more numbers. So 4 goes into 17 4 times. Multiply to get 16. Subtract to get 1. Bring down your 8. Goes in there 4 times. Multiply to get 16. Subtract 2. Bring down your 2. Okay, so what's this number called? Remainder. Now, depending on what grade you were in, determine what you did with this number. So like when you first started, you made a big R and put a 2. Then you learned that you had to do like decimals and continue on, or you made fractions. Okay, we're going to do it with variables. And I know we touched on this barely in Algebra 2. So, because you only use it one other time, and it's the same thing in pre-calc. We're going to learn it today, we'll use it one other time, but synthetic division is what we use for almost everything. Okay? Alright, so when you're going to do long division, the thing you're dividing by goes on the outside, and then this goes on the inside. If something's missing, you need to put zeros in for it. So you notice how we don't have an x squared? We're going to put 0x squared. And we don't have an x, we're going to put 0x. So if something's missing in between, you're going to put zeros. Okay, so if we did it with numbers, we said like how many times does 4 go into 9? It's similar with variables. I like to think of it as what times x will give me x cubed. So I look at the first thing on the outside and the first thing on the inside. What times x will give me x cubed? X squared. That's what goes on top. It doesn't matter where you put it. I just like to match up my my exponents. So that's why I'm putting it here. Doesn't matter. It just goes on top. Okay, what'd you do after you get something on top? You multiply it. So x squared times x, x cubed. X squared times -1, negative x squared. Okay, after we multiplied, what do we do? Subtracted. You do the same thing on this. Okay, you're subtracting variables, and you have more than one part. So when you subtract, you're actually subtracting both parts. So that's a minus. What happens to a minus and a minus together? That's going to turn into a plus sign. So then my x cubes cancel. 0x squared and 1x squared added together gives me 1x squared. Okay, how many things did we cancel? One part, right? So however many you cancel, then you bring down that many parts. Most of the time you just cancel one, sometimes 2 things will cancel. So you have to bring down the next 2 things. And then we start over. So what times x will give me x squared? X, so that goes up here. So x times x, x squared. X times -1, -1x. What do we do now? Subtract. So subtract, subtract. X squareds cancel. 0x plus x would be x. 0 plus 1 is 1. Cancel out one thing. So I bring down my next thing. And start over. What times x will give me x? 1, so that goes up here. Multiply. 1 times x is x. 1 times -1 is -1. Now what happens when you subtract on these? They both cancel, right? Okay, so if they both cancel, is there anything else to pull down? No, so that means there's no remainder. So then what's on top is my answer. There's no remainder, so you're done. Second period said I didn't really remember this. Do you guys remember this or not really?
Nope.
The only thing we use it for is when we get ready to graph reciprocal functions. We have to find slant asymptotes, we have to use long division. So that's why you have to learn it. Everybody good? Okay, so the x plus 2 goes on the outside. And then I have, is there anything missing where I have to put zeros in? No. So you just look from the, so I have 4, 3, 2, 1, and then a constant, so we're good. You just have to fill in zeros if something's missing in between the numbers. Okay, so what times x will give me x to the 4th? X cubed, so x cubed goes up here. Okay, then we're going to multiply. X cubed times x, x to the 4th. X cubed times 2, 2x cubed. Okay, then you're going to subtract. So subtract. X to the 4's cancel. 5x cubed minus 2x cubed would be 3x cubed. And we bring down, since we canceled one part, we bring down one part. And we start over. So what times x will give me 3x cubed? 3x squared, good. So I have a 3x squared on top. Okay, so if I multiply 3x squared times x, 3x cubed, 3x squared times 2, 6x squared. Okay, now what happens when you subtract on this one? They both cancel. So if I'm canceling two things, how many things do I have to bring down now? 2. So now I bring down the minus x and the minus 2. Okay, so one more thing. So what times x will give me negative x? Negative 1. So negative 1 times x is negative x. And then negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. So when I subtract, do I have a remainder on this one? No, because everything cancels. So the answer would be x cubed plus 3x squared minus 1. Okay, ready? One more. I don't know if this is this fitting on the screen. Those of you that can see them.
Yeah.
Mike, let me on it. Still good?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so I'll have x squared plus, that's not right, x squared plus 2x minus 3 on the outside. And then I have 2x to the 4th plus 4x cubed minus 5x squared plus 3x minus 2. Okay, nothing's missing, so I don't have to put in any zeros. Okay, so what times x squared will give me 2x to the 4th? 2x squared, okay, so I'll put 2x squared up here. Okay, then multiply. 2x squared times x squared. 2x to the 4th. 2x squared times 2x. 4x cubed. And 2x squared times negative 3 would be negative 6x squared. Okay, so now I'm going to subtract. How many things cancel when you subtract? 2. The first two both cancel. So I'll have to remember to make sure we bring down 2 things. And then I have negative 5x squared plus 6x squared, which is 1x squared. And since 2 canceled, that means we have to bring down both of these. Okay, then I start over, so what times x squared is x squared? 1, so I put plus 1. So if I multiply, that would give me x squared plus 2x minus 3. And then subtract. So x squareds cancel. 3x minus 2x would be x. Negative 2 plus 3 would be 1. Okay, is there anything else to pull down? Okay, so that's going to be your remainder. Here's how you show your answer when you have a remainder. You do what the top part says. So 2x squared plus 1. And then you do a plus sign. And you put your remainder, which is x plus 1, over what you divided by, which was the x squared plus 2x minus 3. Okay, so you do what you got as your answer, and then always do a plus sign. That way if there's negatives involved, you don't have to worry about the negatives. So do a plus, and then you take your remainder over what you divided by. And that'll be your answer. Alright, how do you feel about long division?
Great.
Any questions over it? The synthetic I think is easier. Are you guys really tired or you just don't want to say anything because you're on camera?
Tired.
Oh. Alright, we're going to do 3 problems with synthetic division. Okay, with long division, the variables stay with you the whole time. With synthetic division, we take the variables completely out of it, and then we plug them back in at the very end. So that's why I think it's easier, because you don't have to worry about all the variables throughout. Okay, so the first thing you do is whatever you're dividing by, so we have x plus 3, we're going to set that equal to 0, and we're going to solve. So how would I solve x plus 3 equals 0? Subtract 3. So I get x equals negative 3. Okay, that's gonna be our number, and it goes on the outside and kind of like a little half box. Okay, then you're gonna list all the coefficients, just like we did before. If it's missing something, we have to put a 0 in. So I start with x to the 4, so I have a 1. Okay, there's not an x to the 3rd, so we have to put a 0 in there. And then -10, -2, and then 4. Everybody with me so far? Okay, then you bring down your first number. Doesn't matter what it is, always bring it down. And then you're going to multiply this outside number with the bottom number. So -3 times 1 is -3. And then you're going to add down. So long division, you multiply and subtract. Synthetic division, we multiply and then we add. So 0 plus -3 is -3. And then I have -3 times -3, which is 9. So that goes up here. Add down -1. -3 times -1 is 3. Add down, you get 1. -3 times 1 is -3. Add down, you get 1. And this last number is our remainder. Okay, so here's how you're going to write your answer. We started with x to the 4th. We divided once, so now we're at x to the 3rd. So these numbers now are going to go in front of our variables. So I'd have 1x to the 3rd minus 3x squared minus 1x plus 1. And then how you do your remainder, you do plus, and you take your remainder, which is 1, divided by what you divided by. Now I know we divided by -3, but we have to go back to the variables, so we really divided by x plus 3. And that's our answer. So these numbers right here, how you know what the variables, you just take the variable down 1. So if I start with x to the 6th, my answer down here would start with x to the 5th. How do you feel about synthetic division? I like it better. You will actually use this a lot. What we're going to do when we come back from fall break. So if you don't get it, make sure you ask questions so you understand. Because you're going to use this a lot. Alright, we're going to do 2 more examples. Okay, so first thing you do is set your x minus 5 equals 0. And I know that you guys can do this in your head, so if you can do it in your head, you don't have to show the work. How would you solve it? How would you solve x minus 5? Add 5. So if you can do that in your head and you just know, okay, if that's x minus 5, then that means 5 is my number that goes out here, that's fine. You don't have to show the work. Now, the rest of this you're going to have to show because that's the process of synthetic division. So if I list my coefficients, I would have 3, -17, 15, -25. Okay, so what do I do first? Bring down the 3, good. Then what? Okay, so I take 3 times 5 and I get 15, and then what do I do with those 2 numbers? Add them. Good. So I get -2. I'm going to multiply, so 5 times -2, -10, then what do I do now? add them, okay? And then I do what? Multiply, 5 times 5 is 25. Add, I get 0. So this time my remainder is 0. So I start with x cubed. I divide it once, so what's my answer going to start with? X squared. Good. So this would be 3x squared minus 2x, good, plus 5. Since you don't have a remainder, you don't have to put plus 0 over x minus 5. Okay, one more. Okay, what does a fraction bar mean? Divide. Okay, so if it's written like this, it's the same thing as this. They just didn't write it out. They just wrote it as a fraction. So what would be my number that I put in the little box? Negative 8. Good, because you're dividing by x plus 8. So if I set that equal to 0 and solve, I would have negative 8 out there. Okay, and then what would be my coefficients? Good. Okay, since it's missing the x squared and the x, you're going to have to put your zeros in there. Is everybody with me? Okay, then I would bring down the first one number. I bring down the 1. Then I would multiply. Negative 8 times 1 is negative 8. 0 plus negative 8 is negative 8. Then I'm going to multiply. Negative 8 times negative 8 is positive 64. Add down to 64. Negative 8 times 64, negative 512. Add down, you get 0. Okay, so what's my answer going to be?
X squared minus 8x.
Okay, so where we're going to use this is when we're going to solve like higher orders like cubes, fourths, fifths, sixth powers that don't factor. So synthetic division is going to be super important. Okay, you have 10 problems over long division and synthetic. I don't remember if I did 5 and 5 or if I did 4 and 6, but it's 10 total. And that'll get you all the way through the homework assignment.